Hi, Oakland and friends. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we hear the story of David, a well known figure in the Old Testament. But today, we're zooming in on a less known story from 1 Samuel 30. Well, once upon a time, there was a handsome young man with dark skin, beautiful eyes, the youngest in his family, a shepherd from the hill country of Bethlehem. Although an unlikely candidate, David was chosen to be the next king because God looks at the heart, and he is secretly anointed in advance by the prophet Samuel. A little later, David is recruited to do music therapy for the king. He's a skilled musician, and King Saul loves him. David even served on security in the palace. Unfortunately, things turned sour after David defeats Goliath in the incredible popular showdown. David's now a bit of a celebrity in Israel, and Saul becomes angry, jealous, mentally ill. One day, as David is playing music on this portable stringed instrument, Saul throws a spear at him, trying to pin him to the wall. David escapes, and things go from bad to worse. He's hunted down, escapes from his house with the old mannequin in the bed trick, and survives thanks to his friend and secret informant, Prince Jonathan, the king's son. Then David is chased around the wilderness, and in a twist of irony, David is the one who spares Saul's life twice while he's vulnerable, relieving himself in a cave and at night sleeping. So with David still on the run for his life, he now decides to move into the enemy country of the Philistines. He's in a tough situation, and this move is his last resort to survive. So David took his band of 600 men and went over and joined Achish, king of Gath. Now, Gath is the hometown of the giant Goliath, whom David killed in battle as a young man, so that tells you something about the situation. Well, David and his men and their families settled there, and Saul finally stopped hunting for him in Israelite territory. Well, one day, David said to King Achish, "If it's all right with you, we'd rather live in one of the country towns than here in the royal city." So David was given the city of Ziklag. It means winding, so you could call it zigzag. But Ziklag is a town in southern Judah, and they lived there for 16 months. Well, over those months, David ingratiated himself to Achish, who thought, the people of Israel must really hate David now. Well, around that time, the Philistines mustered their armies for another war with Israel. And King Achish tells David, who is this warrior, "You and your men are expected to join me in battle." David agrees, and Achish makes him his personal bodyguard for life. And as they're riding out to battle, the Philistine commanders start demanding, "What are these Hebrews doing here?" And King Achish says, "Look, David and these guys defected. They've been with me over a year, nothing wrong." But the army commanders are angry. Can we really trust him? I mean, who's to say? Couldn't he turn on us in the middle of battle? So Achish has to talk to David. He says, "Look, sorry, there's nothing wrong with you, but the generals don't approve. So go back home in peace." So 3 days later, David and company have marched south from Aphek to Ziklag. Back home, they're covering some 20 miles a day. They're tired, hungry, worn out, expecting all the comforts of a welcome home, imagining the embrace of their spouses, the smiles of their children, and the delicious food that will await them. And they arrive home to Ziklag, and what greets them is the sickening smell of smoke. Everything in the city has been reduced to rubble and ash. The smoke is still rising from the city. You see, while they've been gone about a week, the Amalekites have wreaked havoc, attacked and raided Ziklag, capturing and carrying off all the women and children. David and his men see the ruins, realized what happened to their beloved families and weep openly, sobbing until they're too tired to cry anymore. It's more than they can bear. All these men are experiencing the crushing heartache of losing family who've been kidnapped with God knows what happening to them. Possessions can be replaced. People cannot. And the men are grieving, feeling powerless, angry, guilty at having been away when this happened. Perhaps if Saul would have destroyed the Amalekites, none of this would have happened. And David has suffered loss, just like all his men. But as the leader, he is responsible. And David's men blame him. They've lost everything. And due to the trauma, they've lost perspective. The men in David's army are threatening to kill him, which is greatly upsetting. I imagine David stands there with hands blackened by soot after sorting through the burned out home, tears running down his face. What will he do? He could become depressed, hopeless, give up, or defensive, reactionary, vengeful. There are many choices. And what David chooses to do is to connect with God, to center himself in Yahweh. And the very next words in the story are 1 Samuel 30, verse 6. But David strengthened himself in Yahweh his God. What powerful words. David strengthened himself in the Lord. It's this Hebrew word, chazak, meaning to strengthen or encourage. When David had no strength to go on, he strengthened himself in the Lord. Instead of blaming God or asking why, he turned to God for strength. And David's trust in Yahweh enabled him to gain perspective and find strength and courage to take the next step. Well, the rest of the story is that David receives clear word from God that a rescue campaign will be successful. So they go on this barren wasteland hike that completely exhausts the troops across Besor Ravine, 400-foot wide cliff. A third of the men can't go on and have to stay behind with the packs. But later on, David finds a sick Egyptian slave left for dead in the desert by the Amalekites. And he is able to help David and company track them down. And they find the Amalekites drinking and dancing, an easy target with no defense lookouts. And then they rescued their families and gave thanks to God. They were able to recover everything. Nothing was missing. But I want to know, what made David this kind of person that at the lowest points in his life, he strengthens himself in the Lord? David was someone who knew God deeply and looked to the Lord for help. And I believe it was a consistent, conscious choice over the course of his life. I want us to look at the evidence in the Psalms of David. Psalm 27, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? I am confident that I will see the Lord's goodness while I am here in the land of the living. Wait patiently for the Lord. Be courageous, and he will strengthen your heart. Wait patiently for the Lord. 61. O God, listen to my cry. Hear my prayer. From the ends of the earth, I cry to you for help when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the towering rock of safety, for you are my safe refuge, a fortress where my enemies cannot reach me. Let me live forever in your sanctuary, beneath the shelter of your wings. 62. My soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from him. My hope comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I will never be forsaken. I will never be shaken. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your hearts to him, for God is our refuge. But David strengthened himself in the Lord. 63. O God, you are my God. I earnestly search for you. My soul thirsts for you. My whole body longs for you in this parched and weary land where there is no water. I have seen you in your sanctuary and gazed upon your power and glory. Your unfailing love is better than life itself. How I praise you. I will praise you as long as I live, lifting up hands to you in prayer. You satisfy me more than the richest feast. I will praise you with songs of joy. I lie awake thinking of you, meditating on you through the night because you are my helper. I sing for joy in the shadow of your wings. I cling to you. Your strong right hand holds me securely. But David strengthened himself in the Lord. But David strengthened himself in the Lord. So let's get to the heart of it. How can you strengthen yourself in the Lord? I believe the only way we'll be able to strengthen ourselves in the Lord is by intentionally seeking, meditating, memorizing, singing about God's character in Scripture. Here's what you can do. Read and pray the Psalms. And if you don't know where to start, for example, 27, 28, 61, 62, 63, I've read some of those. But find the word or phrase, the attitude or mindset, the moment or turning point in these Psalms of strengthening yourself in the Lord, and hold on. Hold on by thinking about it over and over, praying it, memorizing it, singing it, and ultimately living it. Jesus said this, "You can have peace in me. In this world you have trouble, but take courage. I have overcome the world." When you and I encounter troubles, day by day, in joy or in sorrow, we can strengthen ourselves in the Lord. And may God bless you with hope and courage as you strengthen yourself in the Lord. Grace and peace. I love you.